will be equipped, encouraged, and ready for each day's journey. Chapter 1. Maureen found herself alone in a room that had oversized mahogany doors, polished to a high sheen. She imagined that this room is where the elite came to have cocktail parties in the evening light, complete with big band music and dancing. She closed her eyes for a moment and took a deep breath. She felt the sun on her face and slowly opened her eyes. The sun was shining brightly through a majestic window that filled one side of the room. The walls seemed to glimmer like gold as the afternoon sun bounced off them, filling the room with warmth. Down the halls, ornate furniture with lush gold fabric lined the walls with deep red drapes and pillows. Large vases bursting with fresh flowers filled the rooms with the smell of spring. The room had held many parties and joyous celebrations. But not today. No, today the room had a somber effect, with chairs lined up in rows to hold the many guests coming to pay their respects. Dad had died suddenly, just over 2 weeks ago. Maureen stood in the room alone to catch her breath, attempting to pull herself together before the guests arrived. At 5'5", Maureen was neither short nor tall. She was slender yet curvaceous, which she wasn't comfortable with. Maureen loved to hike in the mountains, and as a nurse she got her steps in around the hospital, making it easy to keep her weight down. She wore her straight brown hair at shoulder length, and the cut followed the line of her jaw. Her deep-set eyes were brown with flecks of gold in them. Today she wore only light makeup, knowing it would probably be gone before the day was over. Mom had insisted. She looked out the window at the rolling green hills, taking advantage of the fleeting moments of calm. Maureen knew her dad would have loved knowing his memorial would be held here, at the exclusive Los Angeles Country Club. Her brother Grant was a member. He and Dad were a lot alike. Grant Sr. was a doctor in private practice. He was only 5'10", but he stood as if he were at least 6 feet tall. He always held himself with pride, and he had a laugh that could light up an entire room. Mom often said it was Dad's laughter she fell in love with. He did well enough for himself and his family. Mom never had to work, which allowed her to be the social butterfly. Where Dad had a warm intellect, Mom had a gregarious flair. They were the perfect balance. At 6'1", Grant did stand tall. He looked up to Dad and inherited his drive for success. Except his ambition was on steroids. He excelled in everything he did. From sports to academics, there seemed to be nothing he couldn't do. Dad would beam every time a new accolade was bestowed on him. He, of course, married the perfect model, Tiffany, and had a fairy tale wedding. Though Grant had a surfer look with sun-bleached hair and brown eyes, he had an impeccably shrewd mind. It made sense that he went into law. He could charm anyone. Dad was over the moon when Grant Jr. made partner in the firm. He was laser-focused, and he kept his sights on success. Maureen sighed heavily, thinking of her dad. Dad had played golf with Grant here just last month on his 80th birthday. She missed him, and wondered if he had been as proud of her as he was of Grant. As a child, Maureen loved to sit with her dad and read stories. They read adventures and mystery novels and went on walks hand in hand. Grant had come along when she was 6 years old, a surprise addition, and he changed everything. Dad was so excited to have a son. Maureen knew her dad loved her, but his face never shone as bright as when he looked at Grant. Maureen and her dad still shared secret looks and stories that Grant wasn't a part of, but over time, they drifted apart. When Maureen announced she was going to be a nurse, Dad was over the moon to have someone in the family following his footsteps in the medical field. The day she graduated, he bought her a bouquet of wildflowers and a stethoscope. Maureen reached up as if to touch the piece around her neck, remembering the joy she felt as if it was just yesterday. She wore it every day at work with pride. Graduating